commit suicide from physical bullying, but when you compare suicide from bullying pre-information age to cyberbully side, apples and oranges. And why? Because cyberbullying attacks the child's mind. It's not kicking their ass, although that can be included, but cyberbullying attacks a child's mind, their psychology.
You guys are listening to Dr. Michael Nuccitelli, NYS licensed psychologist. iPredator.inc is what you're going to look for out of New York, USA. And he's got iPredator.co, just like it sounds. Check out that website. Dark Psychology, which is darkpsychology.co. And then Dr. Internet Safety, which is just like it sounds, drinternetsafety.com. DR Internet Safety. And what's your next move, Doc? Where are you going with this? What is the end game?
Well, the end game is, if I can get seed funding, is for me to be able to relax a little bit and to be able to, everybody's jamming me to write the book. I mean, quite honestly, I have no problem. I 3/4 of my doctoral dissertation back in the 90s, I was stoned. I had to smoke grass through 3/4 of it. That's how much I hate researching and writing. You know, I wish I could just talk it like this. I wish I could do this every day. But unfortunately, in my world, I hate academics. I hate the letters after my name. I just assume listen to an 80-year-old garbage man than somebody with 40 letters after their name. So for me, the goal is to, and it's so. We as a country, and I say we act as if it's 1983. We act as if we can say and do and be, and we act as if cyberspace is non-existent.
Yeah.
And so my goal is to, if I'm fortunate enough, is, it'd be nice to have iPredator part of the English lexicon, so I don't always have to say all 7 or 8 different typologies. But before I drop dead, I would love for, in this country, and I don't know about you guys, but when I was in 8th grade, when I was 12, 13, I had to take health class. His name was Mr. Model, real cool dude. And part of health class, you got a little bit of sex ed, a little bit of alcohol and drug ed. Well, before I drop dead, my goal is that in every school, K through 12, and obviously the education is developmentally geared towards the age of a child. You don't teach a kindergartner about online sexual pedophiles, but that every child is taught K through 12, increasingly as they go up, a little bit about internet safety and what it means to be in the information age. And most importantly is, the 3 tenets, and once again at the website in information age education, is humility, prevention education, and very important, non-denominational family values. Obviously, technology hasn't caused the breakup of the family, but this has been going on for a couple of decades. And we need to get back to where a family, as whether it's small or big, is to sit down at dinner, even if it's once a week, and to bring back a sense of family values. And those are the 3 criteria that if I can hopefully get that, then I can drop that.
Absolutely. We're getting ready to close this show down. Doc, I would like to ask you to come back on because I want to do another big show about this where we're going to get into a bunch of bullet points and details. But before we close, I want to hear what Apocalypse has to say about this whole thing. And then maybe from there, we can talk a little bit more about the mind of the troll, if you don't mind. And then we'll probably close out. And then we'll plan another show for maybe next Thursday night. So, Apocalypse, well, what are your thoughts about all this? Sound like a bunch of psychobabble to you? Does it sound real? Is it hitting home?
Well, I guess it's not really hitting too hard to home personally to me, but I do see this happening to a lot of different people. I don't know really what the answer is. As I said before, the real thing that I could see is just a little bit of legislation catching up. And most of the time, a lot of this troll stuff can be avoided by simply ignoring the troll, and that's it. But I guess we're not basically talking about a lot of that sort of trolling. We're talking about the more vicious trolling. So with that, I mean, is there any like support groups for, I guess, the biggest victims of all? Is there like
I'm sure, and not to disparage them, I'm sure on Facebook there's Facebook groups, and there's no formal groups, there's no formal treatment. We don't even have treatment here for internet addiction, and over in Asia they've got inpatient treatment facilities, popping up all over. But here in this country, as I said, we act as if it's non-existent. But for you, Apocalypse, what you can do is educate. You sound like somebody that is adept and skilled to where you are at a very low probability, if not insulated, from being fucked with. And that is an acquired skill. It didn't just happen. You weren't born with the genetics. Somehow your constitution, your ability, your life experience has brought you to a place to where your proverbial skin has gotten thick and you know what to do. So for you, it is just telling people and educating people on what they can do if they want. And if they don't want, they don't have to either. But that is the biggest thing, is awareness. And the other thing is that everybody who calls me, they've already been told by their families and by their loved ones, turn it off, you're crazy, you're addicted. They've already been to the court system. Law enforcement has told them to, there's nothing they can do. They end up calling me, and not that I'm anything special, it's just called validation. They tell me their story, and I say, Jesus Christ. And so far, once again, I'd say between 8 or 9 out of 10 of them say, thank you, Doc. You're the first one that actually understands. So for those of you that is just willing not to minimize it, people don't understand that when somebody fucks with you in cyberspace, if you're the target, you are the only one that really feel and perceive it and interpret it as a real targeting. So when somebody says to you, just turn it off or just delete your Facebook, well, you can delete your Facebook. They'll tweet you now. They'll find your ass if they want. People don't understand the psychological aspects that go into trolls and cyber stalking which is victimization dynamics and how it makes a person feel. And then you have children. Now you take a child who doesn't even have hair on his nuts yet and is now being called a piece of shit, and now his pictures, because it's called happy slapping, where a kid in gym class takes a picture of him in the locker room with his drawers down with a smartphone and now spreads it all over social media. What do you expect that 14-year-old to do? Just blow that off?
Yeah. This country, I didn't realize that this was part of your main argument, but this country does not take the internet seriously, as if it were cartoons that you can flip off, when really you can be drug into it even if you're not on the internet, and everybody's on the internet. So we need to start looking at it like a land. Yeah, it's the Wild West right now, but laws have to come and organize this shit. We've got dudes walking outside the bar at noon shooting each other in the fucking face. That's not really the ideal way to settle disputes. However, I am kind of a fan of it. The laws have come to make us a more civilized people, and that is something that is not coming to us naturally, not in this country. Why are people not taking the internet and this bullying and internet terrorism and trolling seriously, would you say, Doc?
Well, I wish you didn't ask that, because that is something that I'll be studying for the next 40 years. And if Apocalypse, anybody, the listeners, and I know I'll be studying this for the rest of my life, I can't understand, and I'm not even close, I'll tell you the truth. I know within all of us that we have a dark side, and by the grace of God, some of it only comes in bits and pieces. For criminals and deviants, it comes out of a lot, and it's always been around. It'll always be around. Within us, there is good, the grand balance, the yin and yang. But what I can't understand is, for some reason, is now that there is this cyberspace information technology, and it's more than just because you can't identify me, Kevin. People are far more brutal to one another than they were to each other pre-information age. So prior to the information age, people still exploited, abused, harassed people. But now in cyberspace, it is exponentially worse.
Yeah.
And what's even more amazing, one of the fastest growing segments, and this is, I've already proven this, we tend to think men are the grand assaulters, aggressors,
Right.
Well, what is the social networking site? What is the first word of social networking? Social. Well, which gender is brought into the world and is taught to be social? Females.
Right.
What they're finding, and it's not their equal yet, but it'll is female on female cyberbullying is quickly gaining to where they believe within the next 5 to 10 years, just as many females will be cyberbullying as males. Now, in a pre-information age world, girls didn't bully other girls. Yeah, it happened, but it was a male-dominated industry.
Yeah, definitely.
Bullying. But now, when you don't need physical attributes, you don't need strength, and you can use your mouth. What are women good at? Using their tongue. Women are incredibly adept at social media and social attacks. And some of the most vile, and I'm not being melodramatic, the most vile I can't even add enough venomous V's to it, have been between two girls going at one another, and it's not called a cat fight anymore. I don't even have a term for it, as what they will do to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I grew up with 4 sisters, Doc, and when a woman gets her mind set on a war, it'll be over when everybody's laying dead. I mean, the commitment is phenomenal. There's a little meme going around. I think they call them. I hate these new words, but about what a woman really means when she says something. And one of them is when she says, what's wrong, and she says nothing. Don't believe that. If she says nothing, something's wrong. We're getting ready to get out of here. I would like to invite Dr. Michael Nuccitelli, PsyD, on next Tuesday or next Thursday, if he's available, to do another show. And I'd like to see if the doc or Apocalypse have some closing thoughts before we get out of here on cyberbullying, cyber terrorism, just trolling, anything else like that. Apocalypse, do you have any closing messages here? Something you might have forgotten to say?
Yeah, basically, it seems like the more you're on the internet, the more you travel around it, you probably have that many more potential targets on your back. So it seems like if you're not always on the internet, if you're like out having fun, it seems like you're not going to be that big of a priority of a target. So, and I think you'll be better healthy if you just kind of take this internet stuff in strides. You go out and play baseball, you play football, you go hang out with your buds, then you come on for a little bit and then you log off and that's it. So to me, it just seems like maybe the internet's not really healthy. Like, we are never meant for the internet. So I just say, try to keep it to a minimum, and I guess you should be fine.
Good point. What do you think about that, Doc?
Oh, of course. I mean, I support what Apocalypse said. I can only say I wish what he said was true, but unfortunately, children, particularly children, us adults, we can walk away from the computer. We can put the smartphone to us. It's for some adults, it's part of their life, but we have to understand, and this is important, we have to understand children, today's children, and ad infinitum going forward, for them, Apocalypse, to just, although I wish they would, for them just to put down that smartphone and go outside and play, for them it's very different than for us to do it. Even though they need to do it, for them it is next to impossible. I mean, that is my greatest concern. So I hope we as a society can create something that's going to interest them to put down the goddamn smartphone and go outside.